why would you even write a paper like this? Like, why are you involved in a paper like this? You know, you said you had these books, you've written about this, right? If people don't know who you are, I mean, right? But the first time I saw you and experienced, you know, who you were was in a Jesse Michaels video. Um, and it was, I don't know, 6, 7 months ago. Phenomenal video. Definitely, I'll put a link in the description. I'll probably show a clip of it right now.
They said, "We know you've been thinking about quitting lately, and we'd really prefer you didn't do that." And I said, "How could you possibly know that? I never told anybody that. I never even spoke those words out loud. It was a thought in my head." And they said, "Once you know who we are, you'll know how we know that." And then telepathically, I communicated future humans. And they said, "So you know how we did that?" And I said, "Uh-huh."
And I was fascinated by your story because honestly, I wasn't expecting it. You know, I'm watching the video. I don't really know who you are. And all of a sudden you bring up that Jesse asked you, have you had a personal experience? You know, like, you know, and you did, and you have. And I'm wondering if you could talk about that a little bit. And also, right, I'm assuming that's why you're a part of this paper, right? Because this is something you want to continue to explore and push, like you've been talking about this entire interview, right?
Yeah, so Tim Lomas, the first author on the paper, reached out to me about a year and a half ago, um, trying to get me to join him in writing these academic articles. And I was completely over the journal writing process, the journal industry. I played the game, I did it, I contributed to a number of things that are really esoteric, well beyond the scope of this conversation, that were important, and um, just became kind of jaded with the way the system's set up. And we don't need to get into that right now. So it took some effort for him to twist my arm and convince me to do this, but I'm glad he did. He's
Oh,
been
wow.
great to work with, as have the other um, co-authors that we've been working with over the last year or so, on up to about 4 papers, I think, we have in the pipeline right now. So yeah, I fought for a little while, and then succumbed to his wiseness, and his arguments made sense. So yeah, we've been doing this, but a lot of it does stem from the fact that I have been researching and writing about this topic, um, really my whole life. A lot of why I went into biological anthropology was because of an experience I had when I was 8 or 9 years old. And I read about this at the beginning of my first 2 books, where I envisioned in this, what I consider sort of a precognitive moment, or potentially a download, as they're considered. This early hominin face popped in my head, a modern human, and then this archetypal gray alien, which was inspired by the cover of Whitley Strieber's book that my biological father had bought because he had a UFO experience. The book came out. I walked into the living room, had this like bright white light in my eyes, and then this image. And I remember it very clearly, as if it was yesterday. So that started me down this path. And I didn't really pay attention to a lot of the high strangeness that occurred between then and leading up to 2022, when things started to get weird to the point where I couldn't ignore it any longer. And I talk about a couple of those briefly in Jesse's doco, and he did a great job, even beyond that aspect of it, tying together a lot of the arguments for this extraterrestrial model, some of the main talking points, the main lines of evidence. But yeah, he had actually brought me down to LA in December of 2022, about 2 months after this event that you're referencing happened. And I was still just a mess from it. My sense of ego had been highly diminished. My sense of reality had been thrown completely overboard. And so I was trying to sort of get a grasp on what is reality, how do I fit within it, how is physical reality constructed, is it real, is there something that's more fundamental, some sort of non-dual consciousness that it emerges from, and all these questions. And I was still just tired and burnt out, which is how all of this started in the first place, because I wanted to quit back in early October 2022. So after the shoot, I just sort of the floodgates opened, and he's sitting on the couch, his cameraman's there, everything's turned off, and something that was said just triggered this like flush of this experience. And he's just sitting there like, whoa, and his cameraman's like, holy shit, dude, what? And so I leave, come back, start to be able to get grounded, get some context for how I can circle the square of these types of interactions with my day-to-day life. Filters, I guess, were put in place. And then he invited me back down, I think almost exactly a year from when this happened in October of the previous year, to fill in some parts. He got a better camera crew, better sound equipment, wanted to build on what we started the previous December. And I had a feeling he would want to talk about this. I didn't know if I was ready. I talked about it with some friends and some colleagues in this space who have become friends, just to sort of have some way to connect with other people, because my brain was kind of fucked for a while, and I was trying to get some sense of self back and just some context with which to process all of this. So I really struggled with that. I didn't know if I could talk about it. And then I started to think, well, one of the things they said in this interaction, when I asked, they asked me if I had questions for them. And one of the first ones I asked was, can I talk about this? They said, we want you to talk about this. So I got the sense that obviously at some point when I was able to, I should. I also dedicated my second book to the brave women and men who openly talk about their abduction experiences and things like this. So I'd be a hypocrite if I didn't do the same. So I went down there knowing he was probably going to ask. As he picked me up at my hotel to go to the shoot location, he's asking about other things that might have been happening, and there have been many. And he was like, just so you know, I didn't bring you down here to talk about this. I think we were both I was wondering, but I didn't necessarily assume that, but he wanted to clear the air right away. Like, I didn't bring you here to talk about this. If you want to, that'd be great. And I was like, I think I'm ready. I think I can do it. And I trust him. I trust his ability to frame everything in a way that is palatable for me and other people, and I feel comfortable with. So I was like, yeah, let's do it. If it comes up, if it feels natural, let's have this conversation. Maybe it'll help other people. And it seemingly has, because as soon as that aired the following month in November, I had so many people reach out to me, thanking me because they had similar experiences, telepathic interactions like this. And it helped lend some legitimacy, which is a big part of what we need to do, is just be able to talk openly about things, and especially concerning the weirder parts of the phenomenon. And I think, one of the great things about this paper is it sort of allowed people to realize, okay, UFOs are real. This sounds weird, but the phenomenon is really weird. So
yeah,
how can we start to think about this and talk about it? And that was a big part of what Jesse and I's conversation, and he's really great at what he does, conveying everything very succinctly and in a way that is a great middle, a melding of entertainment and information. He pulls a lot of things together. And so yeah, it was good. And obviously, people fear what they don't understand. A lot of people can't wrap their heads around this type of interaction. And so there was a lot of lashing out at me, which is blaming the victim. I didn't ask for any of this. This is just something that happened to me, and I felt I should talk about, and I did. So yeah, it was unfortunate that happened early on. It got better. Talked about it publicly at the Inquiry into Anomalous Phenomenon conference for the first time in front of people, with people in
Yeah.
a room in New York in mid-December, and then the next day went on with George Knapp on Coast to Coast AM for a 4-hour period, and
Oh,
made
wow.
sure to tell people before talking about this experience, like, look, I didn't ask for this. I don't understand it. I'm still trying to figure it out. I'm not telling you what to believe. I'm just telling you what happened. You can take that and form your own ideas based on your own experience. So yeah, that sort of took what was already kind of a strange foray into a strange world and made it even weirder.